but it's certainly concerning at the same time. So what's happening is what's an EEA3, right, an Energy Emergency Alert 3, and that's the highest level of alert that ERCOT can put out. And I know some people probably heard that name for maybe the first time today. So in case you didn't know, they operate the power grid here in Texas. And I was talking to them earlier. This hasn't happened since February of 2011. So it has been a decade since we've hit this level. It's not exactly common. What that means is that the reserves that they have for the grid have just been depleted because, as you talked about, it's as simple as supply and demand. That demand has been so high all day with people trying to heat their homes as cold as it is outside, and the supply just hasn't been able to hit it. Now, one thing that's been interesting to watch is that they show their reserves online, and they got down to about the 900 range just a few minutes ago. About 1,700 megawatts is the threshold for that EEA1, right? Or, excuse me, the EEA3 where we're at now. They're already back up near 3,000, so above the threshold for EEA1. That's the first emergency level. So it's unclear at this point how long this might go on, but as you talked about with Encore, you've got 130,000 people in the areas they service, which isn't just VFW, but 130,000 people who are without power right now. We talked all day. People need to continue, even with this going on.
Right.
It's not a free go ahead and start your load of laundry right now. You need to keep the thermostats as low as, is tolerable for you. Above 55, don't go crazy, but below 68 if you can. And then really, don't run the dishwashers, don't run the washers and dryers, the oven, things that we've talked about all day, all those heavy appliances. But as I mentioned, this has really played out exactly as ERCOT kind of expected. They said we could hit emergency conditions by tonight. That's exactly what happened. They said we could have outages by the early morning. That's where we're at now. And one other quick point that it's important to point out, because we've been asked this across the day, is that ERCOT isn't deciding, whose power goes out. They're telling these providers, these utility providers, and those providers are handling the specifics. So ERCOT is just saying, hey, we need you to help lower the demand on the system to help get these reserves back up, and that's what's happening right now, Cleo.
William, we're talking about rotating outages, but do we know if this is a county-by-county basis? I mean, do people in Plano know that, hey, my power might be out at some point today? Will we know where that happens?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if they're going. I can't imagine it's exactly like this home, that home. It's imagine a grid at a time, right?
Right.
So it's not necessarily, picking either other home or something along those lines. They're keeping this rotating as it goes along.
And once again, William, for people listening this morning, how can we help out ERCOT so that we don't see so many outages in the next couple of days or so?
Yeah, we continue to say this, and that's really been, frankly, if you think about it, the theme for the years. We need to be helping other people, even if, and to put ourselves at risk a little bit. So you need to be turning down your thermostats. You need to not be running any of those heavy appliances. Any lights that you can turn off, turn those off. Unplug the toaster, any appliances you're not using. It's not just about that. Anything plugged in, every little bit helps. It's those large industrial users that were shut down in EEA2, that second to last level. And that's, once they get rid of those large users of the system, it really comes down to you and I, and every little bit that we can do, turning off lights, unplugging things from the outlets, that can really help reduce the amount of time that we're dealing with these rolling outages, because obviously it's a problem for everybody.
Right. William, before you go here, will the outages only last for about 15 to 30 minutes, or could it be longer? I'm sure a lot of people waking up and it may be cold in their home right now. They can't turn on a light. So what's the deal with that? Right.
No, that is important to know. So this isn't going to, if your power's out right now, and maybe you're watching this on a phone or a charged laptop or something along those lines, this isn't going to last forever. And if this happens to you soon, it's 15 to 45 minutes is the guidance that we've been given, right? 15 to 45 minutes is how long you can expect to be dealing without power. So it certainly feels like forever when it's happening to you, but it's just a short period of time. And again, it's to really help everybody across the state of Texas think about that, to help lower this strain, because it is it is certainly cold outside right now. I know everybody's trying to stay warm, but that's just really overloading the system at the moment.
And William, we brought up the map there to show where those outages are. How can people find this map and see what's going on in their neck of the woods?
Gotcha. Frankly, if you just Google outage map Encore, it will pop up. But the URL is stormcenter.encore.com. That's stormcenter.encore.com. And you can see where those outages are. You can even report outages if you need to. But certainly at this point, they kind of know who they're dealing with because they're the ones who are deciding where this power is, going off and on.
All right. William, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So Plano right now, Arlington, Fort Worth, and Richardson are now without power. We will be covering this throughout the next few days. ERCOT announcing and those rotating outages happening across Texas. We will be tracking this throughout the morning here. Please join us here on Daybreak at 4:30. Please download our WFAA weather app, and we are always online at WFAA.com. We know it is cold right now. Please conserve energy the best you can. I think we have our Jason Whiteley also live with us this morning. Jason, good morning.
Hey, Cleo.
You've been here for quite some time. This is definitely a historic moment.
Yeah, indeed it is. You mentioned a few of the places that don't have power now. Just, we're hearing about Frisco, Plano, Richardson. As I look at the Encore map here, it's Arlington, Fort Worth, farther out into Weatherford too. But keep in mind, this is not just North Texas here. I'm looking at the Center Point map, which covers the Houston area, and 97,000 customers are without lights there. And just for some context, I've watched since this started about almost an hour ago now, this emergency energy alert level 3. And like the Houston area, for example, has gone down from 130,000 customers without electricity to 97,000. And we watched Encore's, double from about 60,000 or so customers to 126 is what it's at now. But, for people who've lived in North Texas for a few minutes here, the last time we had this was February of 2011, like William mentioned. That's when the Super Bowl was in Arlington for the first time.
Wow.
And we got the ice storm there. The ice built up on the transmission lines. It knocked those down. So it's something that we don't want to deal with, but something we have to obviously, handle right now. I've seen people asking online too, why not just take off the parking lots that are, empty right now with the lights on and some of these other businesses and office towers that don't have anyone in, and they are doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
These providers like Encore are taking them offline, but they're also at a level where they're having to take, you and I offline too at our homes. And when I was on the call with Encore earlier today, this afternoon, or yesterday afternoon rather, at 2 o'clock, Encore was talking about it really anticipated midday today, on Monday, is when it would really get to the level where it would have to, go through potentially rotating outages. So this has sneaked up a heck of a lot faster than they anticipated. Now, here's what we don't know right now. We don't know what led to this. Obviously, demand exceeded supply, but they warned earlier also that if a generating station went offline or a large area, happened to go offline for whatever reason, that would obviously take down quite a few people. So that could have happened. We're just waiting for Encore to give us an idea of what happened there. One other thing too that's worth pointing out is that right now what's happening in Austin, right there off the on the east side of town where ERCOT's headquarters is. ERCOT's on the phone. They're talking to operators of the other grids in the country. We were already buying electricity from Mexico. It's something we do regularly in Texas, but we were already doing that, and now we're trying to get even more to help alleviate demand on the Texas grid here. So it's a situation that looks like it is improving a little bit here over the last hour, but as we look ahead for the next 4 or 5 days, this is something that we could still be facing because the current forecast map that ERCOT was showing is that demand would exceed supply at several points later today.
Wow.
So it's something we still have to keep in mind.
I mean, Jason, we've got people sending in questions already this morning at 2:21 this morning, wondering, is this going to happen over the next few days? And do they know what time it will happen? Will it happen while they're sleeping like it did tonight or early this morning, rather?
Yeah, it's a good question. And for these massive transmission providers like Encore in North Texas and Central Texas and West Texas, and then CenterPoint down in the Houston area, they're not at an ability where they can they can send out, reverse 911s or something like that to let people know. So what they're doing essentially is just shutting off large neighborhoods at a time. They're taking them down like that. Smaller areas like in Denton County, it has its own electric provider up there, the Denton Municipal Electric Provider, and it is able to actually, send messages to customers to let them know, hey, your electric service is going to be out for the next half hour or so, to kind of give people a heads up. But it is 2:20 in the morning, and
right.
Who's really anticipating this right now?
Jason, once again, state officials at this point, and they have been for the past few days as you've been covering, they're really asking Texans at this point to conserve as much electricity as they can. How can people do that safely and still stay warm?
Yeah, and that's what ERCOT pointed out today. Dan Woodfin is one of the senior directors for systems operations down there, and he said, the point for all this is, yes, lower your stop running your dishwasher and your dryer and things like that, but only do these things if you can do them safely and reliably. You probably don't need your dryer or your dishwasher right now, but you probably, depending on your house, if it's an older house, you probably do need your heat. And older houses sometimes, or places that don't have good insulation, might need to run their heat a little higher to stay warm. So do as much as you can. Unplug things that you aren't using, computers, shut them down and unplug them if you can, to help out with this. And keep in mind, this is something we're going to have to deal with through, potentially at least Thursday, perhaps into Friday.
Jason, I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can with people that are watching us this morning. Some people asking, can they actually call Encore and tell them that they have a medical issue in their home and have their power turned back on? I'm not too sure about this particular question.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. And most of the people who have, like people who are on oxygen, hospitals,
right.
emergency facilities, Encore already knows about these people.
Okay.
My dad had to be on oxygen for quite a while, and when he got oxygen physically delivered to his house, they also notified the electric provider, hey, the person at this address is on oxygen and needs electricity to stay alive. So most of the people who are actually, on these life-saving devices are already known by Encore. Hospitals, now in 2011, hospitals weren't supposed to be taken offline, but there were mistakes made. So hospitals were taken offline back in 2011. It became a huge deal. But hospitals, emergency facilities, 911 centers, these places, which do have their own, generators, they aren't supposed to be taken offline. And to answer the question too, hopefully everyone who is in need of life-saving electrical equipment has notified Encore already.
Jason, is there any chance that the 15 to 30 minute threshold could change in the next few days and be a bit longer?
Yeah. I mean, earlier today, Dan Woodfin was saying 15 to 30 minutes is what it's going to be, and that's what it was back in 2011 as well too. But in 2011, we did see some issues, not only with taking hospitals offline mistakenly, but when these generating facilities were taken offline, they were having trouble starting some of them back up, and that delayed things too. And obviously, like 2011, just like today, it's below freezing, and so that kind of slowed things down. But on average, I would not anticipate this to happen longer than 15 to 30 minutes, 45 minutes at most. I mean, they give the window 15 to 45 minutes, but I think about 30 minutes is about the average they were saying.
Jason, we just got an update from ERCOT. They say responsive reserve has been recalled. What does that mean?
So let me just, while I'm got you on the line, let me just look at the.
You're looking at the map as well.
So ERCOT is above 3,300 megawatts of reserve. So that means essentially that I'm not ERCOT. I don't want to say this, but at 3,300 megawatts of reserve, that means essentially that the rotating outages will likely come to an end very fast.
Okay.
Essentially, anything that goes below 2,300 megawatts of reserve power, that's when it goes into your emergency energy alert levels. So we're at 3,300. It looks like we're back into the clear right here. But this can change quickly. This whole thing changed within probably 30 minutes or so.
It sure did.
earlier, about an hour ago, from like 1 to 125, it went from emergency energy alert 1 to 2 to 3 within like 20 minutes. So it can change super fast, but it looks like right now that ERCOT, that these rotating outages worked. It's worked.
Wow.
That's the good news here. The system physically worked, and they got enough generating capacity online, and likely got some electricity from other grids and perhaps even Mexico to help out in the situation.
And Jason, before you go, for anyone just joining us right now, this is all in an effort to protect the electric grid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last thing you want to do is have a critical failure of the electric grid, which, ERCOT operates most all of Texas. So that's the whole point of this, and they do it in stages. The good news is right now it looks like the rotating outages for homes, for individuals like us, is over. An hour into it here, it's already over, which is great news. But the whole point of this is to protect the grid, to make sure there's enough electricity and reserve to handle all the demand. And we know there is a heck of a lot of demand right now with furnaces running, with everything else as we try to stay warm.
Jason, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And like you said, this could be the deal over the next few days.
Absolutely. I mean, seriously, get ready for it, and keep your external cell phones charged, your external batteries charged. Keep things that you need already charged, ready to go, just in case this happens again. And worst case, if it happens longer than anyone anticipates. All
right. Thanks, there, Jason.
Sure.
So once again, ERCOT announcing those rotating electric outages, which typically could last for about 15 to 45 minutes. In the last few minutes here, ERCOT announcing that they say the responsive reserve has now been recalled. We will be following this throughout the morning. Parts of Dallas, Plano, Arlington, Fort Worth, and Richardson without power throughout the night here. It is now starting to improve as they work to protect the electric grid. A lot of people just using a lot of energy right now just to stay warm, but we need to conserve as much as we can. Please download our WFAA weather app. This is just the beginning of this winter weather event, y'all. You can see what's going on with our live radar on that app. Go ahead and send us your pictures, your videos of what's going on in your neck of the woods, and we will be live once again at 4:30 for Daybreak. So please join us, and thank you so much for tuning in with us right now.